There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if do I.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
Hello and welcome to the Power Chord Hour. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, here with you with another episode of the podcast and the radio show. And it has been quite a while, but we have a in-studio guest. And same as last time, our first in-studio guest, and he is back again like, damn, it's I think almost been, it's not entirely a year, but I mean, it's been I think like 8 or 9 months, but Joey Cobra, who you may know, pop punk musician. We talked last time. He released his Fever Dreams EP. We talked about that back in July of last year. And so he is back. We're going to talk about his music, what he's been up to, and probably music in general. We're just going to have a good time. It's fun to have a in-person guest finally. And yeah, man, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, it's definitely been a crazy 9 months since you last had me on. I've had a lot of stuff going on, so but I'm looking forward to being here and talking about music.
Yeah, so I mean, really, you were last time we talked to you, like I said, Fever Dream EP was out.
Yep.
Your second one was not out yet. So, well, I guess I'm jumping forward, but I mean, like musically and stuff. Yeah, like what were you up to the rest of last year?
Yeah,
in
so
a nutshell.
basically. Once lockdown hit, that's when I talked about it the last episode. I sat down and recorded the Fever Dream EP, and then around the time that I was releasing that, my buddy Chris Bell, who has recorded and produced a lot of my music, actually most of the music that I've ever done in my life. He got back to me about this EP that we kind of we started in 2013, and he said that it was done and sent me the masters, and then that ended up being released, I believe, in August or September.
Yeah, I think it was if I remember, it was like a few months after you were on. Not too long after.
Yeah. So that one has got, because it was done, 9 years ago or 8 years ago or whatever, it's got a very different sound from the Fever Dream EP, which I did completely by myself. But it was something that I didn't think would ever actually end up being released. And it's cool now to just kind of have it out and have two releases, exist and be released in the same year after, I think, the Wake album in 2014. I think that was the last music that I had released before this year. So, yeah, it's been kind of interesting year musically.
I like bringing that up. What I liked about the EPs, and it makes sense now, as you said, it was done like years before. They're not totally different where I'm like, oh, you went like a whole different direction, but they're different enough where I'm like, oh, good. Like you didn't, because I feel like if you had just written, say, a full length's worth and then cut it up into two EPs, might sound repetitive, may sound a little too much of the same.
Right.
You know, so I kind of, that makes sense that it was like coming, because again, it doesn't sound totally different. You're still kind of doing the pop punk, like skate punk thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, it's not just a continuation.
Yep.
So that's pretty neat. Had you even remembered, like, it sounds like he just kind of brought that to you. Like, did you remember doing that or anything? It was just kind of out of the blue. It was like getting released.
Yeah. Well, it was this basically a project that, I didn't have any real like goals or deadlines in mind. And it was something that ended up being this kind of painstaking process where I would record with him and then like he would do some mixes and stuff, and then we'd kind of forget about it. And then a year later, he'd send me some mixes, and I would be like, well, this guitar sounds weird, so I got to re-record the guitar. And so then it was like, it just kind of turned into this whole process that was like, it kind of lost the vision, and I was way overthinking it. And so then, it just turned into this thing where every couple of years he'd be like, hey, you remember this? Here's the last thing that I have. And I would be like, yeah, it's just not there. It's not where I want it to be, because it was such a personal project for me, and the songs and the concept were so, like, I guess, vulnerable in a way that I don't think that I had done before. And so I feel like it was almost me, like, kind of putting it off because I was too scared to, like, release it,
Oh, really?
And so then finally this year I had kind of given up on it and was just like, well, it was something that I kind of had worked on, but I doubt that it'll see the light of day. And then he sent me the mixes, and I was like, you know what? I've had enough growth in my life and kind of musically to be able to appreciate what I had done. And I was really happy with the end product, and I think it's something that I'll be proud of for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, I'm sure you, as people do, you're like writing it and stuff during the time, and after a while you do. I feel like if you spend too much time, you start overanalyzing and everything.
If you way overthink it, like it's like anything, if you get in your brain about it, you become your own worst enemy. So, it was good to kind of look at it or listen to it with fresh ears and just kind of appreciate it for what it was.
Do you do that with music? Like, do you feel like if you go back and listen to like older stuff that maybe you haven't released, or even records that you have, do you like, as time go on, get less critical of yourself, and once you're like a little more removed from it, you kind of go like, oh, okay, like I was either like that, either overthinking it, or like I didn't have fresh ears or whatever. Like, do you do that a lot?
Yeah. I mean, kind of in the sense that, like, when you do, say you do like a drawing or something, or you write an essay or something, or a story as a kid, and then like as an adult you go back and look at it and you're like, you know what, this isn't so bad for what I had the skill to do at that time. So don't get me wrong, I still go back to the old Itchy Boy and the Cobras songs and say like, wow, these really sound like dog shit. But for what it was, you kind of have that removal from your brain of like, well, I should have played this note instead of this note. It's like you're kind of like you're taking a step way far away and kind of seeing the whole picture, and you aren't you're so closely attached to it. It's almost like looking at it as a different person.
That makes sense. I even like recently I have been like doing stuff like throwing music ideas back and forth to a friend like online. I was going back looking at like old GarageBand demos, and I do that where I kind of start something and go, something's missing here, like, oh, it needs this and that, and then I go back and listen 4 years later and I'm just like, oh, who gives a shit, I'm just going to send this to a friend, see what he thinks, and all of a sudden you go, what was that? Like, what was my problem? This is the whole song's here. Like, what was my issue here?
Yeah, you're always going to be the person who's the most critical of yourself, no matter what. I mean, anytime it involves creativity, because it's such a subjective thing that you're the one that's in your brain about it the most, and saying like, well, this isn't good enough, or this doesn't match what I had in my head of what it should be.
Is that hard, like when you were doing like, say, Wake, or I mean just in a band setting? Is it hard to you to bring ideas to other, because you do need that, you do need someone else to be like, this is good, this is bad, but then at the same time it's also sometimes hard to be like, yo, like here's the thing I'm working on,
I mean, I guess it just depends. For other projects, I think if I'm writing specifically for that project, I try not to second guess myself. So with Wake, a lot of it was just me coming up with riffs, bringing it to the band, just kind of, at practice, saying like, oh, I kind of came up with this guitar part or this bass line or whatever, and, kind of jam it out a little bit, and then, record a little phone memo of what we were doing, and then take it home and say like, okay, so here's part of what we could turn into a song, and then kind of figure out how to like write a chorus to that, or maybe it's a chorus and figure out how to write a verse to it, or maybe it's a bridge and I can kind of create a verse and a chorus or whatever. Just kind of have that bounce off of the band, so it wasn't like I painstakingly wrote this entire song and then brought it to them and they were like, this isn't good. But I don't think that there really was a time during Wake that I really was concerned about what they thought was going to be good or bad. It was just like, does this sound like something we'd play or not? Or is it cool or is it not? It was just kind of, tried not to overthink it then. But when it's your own kind of personal project, then of course you're going to be in your head about it,
So I take you're still doing it now with yours, because you are. I mean, you're the one doing it. I mean, I guess also going down that, have you been working on music lately? Have you been doing much of that since we last spoke?
Yeah, actually, I mean, the last time that I was on, I was actually demoing for my follow-up EP.
I remember the third one, right?
The Fever Dream EP. So it was basically I had all of the songs, like, I don't know, 80 to 90% demoed. And then, once we had our baby, then basically all of that kind of went on the back burner.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so now I've been kind of like re-listening to the demos and making notes and saying like, okay, well, this song maybe needs to change the key, and maybe this needs to, be a little bit faster, a little bit slower, or, kind of taking mental notes as far as to how to treat the songs. But the songs are completely done. The songs are 100% written. It's just kind of figuring out how to treat the songs and record the songs as well.
Is it, I guess for you, which one is harder, getting the entire song done or getting it like recorded and like getting it out the way you kind of have it, in your head, or the ideas that you want it to sound like?
I guess it depends on how much time I have. If I've got a couple hours to sit down and write a song, and usually it's very rare that I will sit down and like write a song in its completion.
Write the whole thing in one sitting.
Especially when it comes to like lyrics, I will I'll have I've got a bunch of notes in my phone of just, if I start thinking of lyrics kind of in a certain rhyme scheme or a certain cadence, I'll write those down, and then I'll worry about how to fit those into a song later, because naturally if you kind of write certain things with a certain kind of percussion and a certain timing and a certain rhyme scheme in mind, usually they'll fit, especially with punk rock.
Yeah.
You're playing 4 chords. It'll fit, somewhere in there. And then I'll sit down and write music separately, and then kind of go over the lyrics that I have written and figure out which ones will fit this song. Or I'll just come up with like a new melody and new lyrics to it. That's pretty hard. But I think recording is harder. Yeah. Considering how many songs I've written over the past 15 years and how many songs I've been able to record over the past 15 years, I would say recording's probably the harder part, especially when you're doing it yourself.
I feel that way. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like it's very easy, kind of not easy, but you can bash out something if you feel creative, where it's
Right.
like, hey, I have this, but then it's like to actually make it sound, and not just like a shitty demo on your
Yeah.
phone or just a demo in GarageBand, to actually make it sound halfway decent.
Yeah.
Like, I got to put time and effort in. Like,
Exactly.
that ends up taking longer than writing the song does.
Shitty demos all day long. You can do it. That's not a problem. It's the formal, like
Yeah,
this
actually-
is what's going to be shown to the public. You got to put the tuxedo on and
Got to
give
drop
a shower.
the quality. Like it needs to just be the norm now. Is everyone just uses like voice memos on their iPhone?
Yeah.
To record an album, and that's
Yep.
just
I feel like Matt Skiba did that. He released
Did he?
a EP or something like that was just called Demos. Wasn't that a
Yes,
thing?
there's I bought that at Warped Tour,
Yeah.
2010. Yeah, I remember that. There's like is it a Ducati, like his motorcycle or whatever on the front of it, but it is all demos.
Yeah.
That would make total sense, because
Yeah.
the vocals, I haven't listened to that in a long time because it is called demo, so it's not really something you want to listen to a ton.
Yep.
But that was one of the things I remember. The vocals sound kind of low in the mix, and that would make total sense that those were voice memos.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I guess if you're famous,
He got my $10 at Warped
Tour.
Tour, so I mean,
Exactly. I don't think he's hurting for $10 either, though.
he's got that Blink money now.
Oh my God.
See 2010, he had to sell that back then, before the Blink money.
Yep.
He had to sell us voice memos. Now, oh boy, no.
Yep.
But I know, and you mentioned a second ago too, art. I mean, besides doing music, you also do art. Have you been doing a lot of that as well?
Yeah, when I can. After my daughter was born, I spent a lot of time doing like digital art and kind of teaching myself how to draw digitally on my iPad. So now that's like my iPad is like my new best friend, because I'm not only recording music on it, but doing all my art on it and stuff too. So I did a lot of that, and then I've just been trying to kind of slowly incorporate more painting when I can.
I mean, I can't draw to save my life, so I don't know, but it seems like it would be difficult. Honestly, maybe more difficult painting on like an iPad. Was that hard to do, or is it a pretty easy crossover if you can paint by hand? You can paint with an iPad.
I ended up getting like the Apple Pencil, and
okay.
They make this. This is just this random art thing, but they make like a screen protector, but it's textured like paper, and so when you drag the pencil across it, it kind of feels like you're drawing on paper. And once you learn the program, it ends up being very similar. It's the same process, but it's quicker. It's like once you learn the shortcuts and everything, instead of like drawing a circle and then having to like erase with an eraser and redraw it, it's just like, you just tap and the whole thing's gone and you can redraw it. Or
That'd
like
be easier.
Yeah. So it's like you don't have to like get out supplies or anything. So like she would need to eat, every couple hours. So I would like stay up nights and draw on my iPad and, feed her every couple hours and stuff. And
There you go.
It ended up being a process that I really enjoy, and I am going to kind of continue to work into my everyday art life for a while, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
They, I mean, it's not in here, but we do have a calendar in the other room. I know of your art. Was that digital art? If you know the one I'm talking about, it's all birds.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's the, well, I mean,
I don't know how many calendars you release, so I don't know.
I release one every year.
Oh, okay,
and
nice.
it's always birds.
Oh, sweet.
And this year, 2021 happened to be digital bird illustrations.
I like those.
Yeah,
I like
thank
those.
you.
They're in it's not in this studio, but in the other room we have them. And those are neat. I always like seeing every month when they flip it to the next one.
Yeah.
That's cool. That it is. That iPad is a workhorse. I mean, last time you were here talking about recording an entire EP on the damn thing.
Yeah. That was definitely a learning process, and I think I would spend. There were some days where I would spend 6 to 8 hours working on recording, and I think I've kind of tried to reconsider what the process is going to be for the next EP. I've thought about possibly going to a studio or, traveling to a different studio. And then I'm like, well, I could do it myself and, then maybe like send it out to get mixed, kind of like figuring out where to allocate those funds.
Well, that's a weird thing now, too, because you can do it where, like, it's not like you have to go in and have someone master it, someone produce it, someone mix it. You can literally just go, well, I'll do everything but master it, or I'll do everything but mix it. And even production, like, you can have someone produce it and not even, you just send them things and they'll produce it. So it is kind of neat how now it's like, I can just kind of pick and choose. But at the same time, then more options, that's also kind of stressful.
Yeah. But also, I mean, I guess the perk of, like, having someone else mix it and then having a different person master it is you've got just different sets of ears, being able to give the appropriate amount of kind of attention to all of the little details, as opposed to if you're like, and it's the same with painting, if you're kind of in it and you're like totally in your head about it and you're trying to juggle all of these different things, you're not going to be completely objective about the art that you're making. And you can go and mix it and do all these things, and then like you go listen to it a couple weeks later and you're like, whoa, these drums are way too loud. What the hell was I thinking? And like if all it takes is you just give it to another person and they're like, this is how these levels are supposed to be. Just, that's how these types of things are supposed to sound. So it's easier, especially for somebody who didn't go to school for recording at all and is just kind of like learning all of these things as I go along. Sometimes it definitely there's a benefit to having professionals kind of take a look at what you're doing and be able to help you with the vision that you had in mind.
I'm more of that. I mean, I talk to people who, I interview people who are recording in nice studios. People are just recording at home. Like every different thing. In 2021, you can record an album so many damn different places, different ways.
It's a wild world, yeah.
But like my whole thing, and you can self-produce, and there has been, I'm not saying everything that comes out self-produced is not good. Like I like your EP, you self-produced that, Fever Dream.
Yeah.
But I do think having an outside, even if it's not a producer, just having an outside source like you're saying, even if it's just someone mastering it and someone mixing it, I think if it's all insular and it's only you, or even if it's just you and the 4 other people in your band, I think that becomes a problem because you need outside ears sometimes to be like, get the hell out of your head. Either go, get out of your own way, or go, hey man, like maybe this isn't as great as you like think it is. For either direction of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in art school why they have art critiques where you bring your painting and everybody kind of talks about it and they're like,
a thing?
Yeah.
This sounds scary.
It's pretty scary. But I mean, there's times where it can be constructive and times when it can be like kind of like hazing. But for the most part, it's supposed to be this thing so that can help you grow. It's like other people with their own kind of perspectives giving you feedback about the art that you made. So it's the exact same thing. It's just kind of
sounds
like,
extremely helpful. It just like I'm just thinking like, again, just putting it on display for everyone has to be hard.
When you're young, it is kind of intimidating.
It's probably good though too. After you have that, it's one of those things. It's like you probably don't give a shit when you're out. After that, like that probably helps you with your art in a lot of different ways.
Exactly. It's good to be able to take feedback and take criticism.
As far as making things on the iPad, which is more difficult, making a painting or making an EP?
Oh man.
And the way you're describing it, I thought it was the EP, but I mean, I've done neither on, and again, I can't paint to save my life, so I got to ask you.
I would say they're both pretty time consuming. I mean, it just depends on how complex you're trying to go. Yeah. You can spend months or years on one piece of art. You can spend months or years on one song or one EP. You know what I mean? Like you can overcomplicate or undercomplicate and any piece of art. So that
I feel like that's a modern day trap too, because the more I realize when I talk including like older people for like anniversary. I'm like, hey, let's talk about an album you recorded like 25 years ago when you still had to get like studio time.
Yeah.
The more I think I'm learning is the less money you have and the more you're pushed to just get an album out in like a weekend or something. A lot of times the results are better. Like, because they didn't have that. Now we have as many channels as you want, as many tracks as you want, as long as you want to do it. And that's the pitfall. It's good. I mean, that's extremely good. Obviously, that in that way that's more accessible, it's awesome. But at the same time, it's like so many people I think fall into that where it's like because you have so much time to spend on your art, you get in your own. I mean, we keep talking about it, but yeah, kind of getting in your own way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I hear about bands that like used to book studio time for like a week, maybe 2 weeks or something, and they were like, we didn't even have any lyrics written, and then we just showed up. Like I think it was Dillinger 4. I was listening to an interview with them, and they were saying how they just didn't write lyrics. They had like kind of vocal like melodies or whatever, and then they would go to the studio, and in the studio as they're like recording, they would like go and like write lyrics down.
That honestly blows my mind with them, because there's some bands where if you told me that, I may be like, that makes sense. But with them, they're like so socially conscious. There's all these messages. You know what I mean? Like they're very deep songs. When you read Dillinger 4 may be one of the most underrated. I don't know who in the band writes lyrics. If it's Patty or one of the other dudes, but like
I think they both do.
They're like when you really take back, because half time you can't understand what they're singing at the time. If you go get the liner notes and you read their lyrics, they're some of the smartest, like, and you wouldn't know from the song titles and just the band's antics, but they're like geniuses. The shit they were talking about.
They're one of my favorite bands. Their lyrics are really, really like just smart and heartfelt, and what makes them awesome is they're so real, like in an accessible way. They're not like trying to be anything except for exactly what they are. So they're in my opinion one of the greatest punk bands of all time. Do
you think they have another good, really good record in them? I know it's been so long, and they always tease it, but I'm like, they're a band I think will come out with something good. There's some bands I worry about after years. Yeah, I think they could still put out a good record.
Yeah, I don't think that they're capable of putting out a bad record. And to be honest, I am the type of fan that even if it was a bad record, I would still think it was good.
I
like,
do that.
I made a list of some bands that that are probably recording, that are either definitely recording or are like kind of have talked about recording. And I was thinking about adding a list of bands that I wish would be recording too. And Dillinger 4 and like Hit the Switch, I would say are.
I've never heard Hit the Switch.
Hit the Switch. They're from California, but I probably brought them up the last time because I'm a big fan of theirs.
Were they in that playlist you sent me earlier?
Yeah. They've got it's a song called North Star off of their latest album Entropic, which came out. I think it came out in like 2018. But they were a band that kind of went like 10 years or something without releasing an album, and so I'm hopeful that they end up recording, but I'm like, please don't let it be another 10 years because you guys are way too good to, not put out music. So
that's the same with Dillinger 4. It's like, even if we get another album, it's like, okay, where are we going to wait now? Another, like, we'll get that one, and then it's like, all right, now we got to wait like another 10, 15 years, and we'll get album 6. That's the thing. They've been a band, I think, since like, I mean, they've been a band way longer than you realize, because even Midwestern Songs wasn't like, they had EPs and stuff before that. So like, even Midwestern Songs being their first album, I think was like 4 or 5 years into being a band. Like they had those mutant pop singles and stuff. Like, and I think totally different band, kind of more like more of a silly pop punk band. I think Midwestern is where they got more that seriousness, but they are. They're just such a band, and I mean, I can talk about D4 all day, so move on, but they are like, I'll to this day, like, I'm listening to Dillinger 4 song, and again, because you won't understand what they're singing, but all of a sudden one line will hit you. And then, like, to this day, I can look up the lyrics whenever, but, like, I'll still look them up, and as I'm reading them, I just go, my God, like, they're geniuses.
Yeah. Have you listened to the latest Dave House album?
No.
Where it's like a split. It's like kind of like a split.
Oh, the Patty
EP.
Patty?
Yeah.
I've not listened to it. I heard it, and I thought it was a great concept.
Oh yeah, you got to listen to it because the Dillinger 4 songs that he covers, it's like. It's so haunting, the treatment.
Are they stripped down, or are they like a acoustic?
Yeah. They're
okay,
like,
so you can hear the lyrics now.
Yeah. And it's like Dave House kind of like crooning these lyrics. And, it's kind of crazy just the context of having these lyrics kind of put over this like kind of sad, acoustic with like maybe a piano accompaniment and everything. It totally kind of gives it a completely different vibe, and you realize the seriousness of the heaviness of the lyrics, and it's so awesome, and especially the way that Patty writes, like in that real kind of way,
Oh, absolutely.
And I definitely think that if you're a Dillinger 4 fan and a Dave House fan, you definitely have to check that out.
I knew it came out, but yeah, I'll be honest, I've forgotten to ever listen to it. I thought the concept was awesome. I'm like, that's a great idea for like I think we talked about this last time. I can't remember if it was on air or not, but it goes back to the idea too of if you're just a good songwriter, like you look at Dillinger 4, they're so abrasive, those songs, the lyrics are genius, but they're not right in your face like that because you can't hear them half the time. But they're just good songwriters because if you can strip the songs back like that and they're still genius. Like I don't remember, I think we talked about like Joey Cobra doing the 1 week and different things like that where you start stripping it back and it's like, holy shit, these like 90s punk songs that are like fast and juvenile, all of a sudden you strip them back and you listen to them more and you go, no, that's that's just a good song. Like
yeah. And I think that just goes to show like Joey Cape's ethos of, if you have a good song, it's going to work no matter what format you're playing it in. And, if you've got a song that only works, like when you're playing it at 220 BPM, maybe you should like reconsider like what you're doing, So and that's as far as listening goes, but like live shows, you can kind of, when there's energy and stuff, then it's it's totally different.
Have you ever caught Dillinger 4 live or no?
Yeah, I saw them when they were touring with NoFX in Cleveland.
Oh, so like more of the past few years?
Man, it was...
it was like the last decade, I guess I should say.
It may have been the last decade.
Just because I don't know if you ever heard this, but like, I don't know if there's a band that I've heard crazier stories of their shows like back in like the 90s, like back in the heyday.
Yep.
I've heard things I'm not even going to talk, I won't even like repeat on here.
Yep.
I've heard insane things happen that I go, that didn't happen at a show until you get 7 different people telling you, no, they did.
Yeah.
Just... It's insane. So I had to ask, but no, you probably got the more tame.
They were tame. It was just after Civil War had come out. So
okay. I think at that point, I think a lot they were
2008 was that?
Shit, yeah. I think that was. God, it's been a long time. Yeah, I think like 08.
Within the past 2 decades.
Okay. I was a terrible Minnesotan. I lived in Minneapolis and missed them every time they played because every show would sell out.
Yeah.
They sold out every time. And then I missed D 4th of July, which made me sad. Because that's the whole reason to even move to Minnesota, to go to D 4th.
Exactly. Yep.
Go to D 4th of July.
Yep.
But actually, it's kind of. Did you say you have a list there of like bands recording right now? Do you have a couple?
I've got it's a short list. I mean, I made a list of kind of like albums that I've been super into the past
I want to talk about that
5
too.
years, and then a couple of bands that I've been into that I know are recording.
Yeah, like what are some anticipated albums for you this year?
So I'm pretty sure Rehasher is
Roger's
recording.
band?
Yeah.
Nice.
Which, Roger, I don't think he can do wrong either. Like that, he's such a dude. So
he's a good producer too.
Yeah. Rehasher, this band called Discomfort Creature. So have you ever heard of the Gamuts?
I've heard of the Gamuts. Yeah, they're from like the 90s, right?
The Gamuts, yeah, I think they probably started in the 90s.
Like an old school punk band.
Chris Fogel, they were like a pop punk band. Chris Fogel, he's got a recording studio called Black in Bloom they're in like Denver. And so he started a new band. He's like, he does like all of these weird like random bands that are like, it's like, let's just get together and record one album and then like in 5 years we'll do another thing. So I think in 2014 14 or 15 he recorded under the band Dwayne, and they released like one album, and it's him and the dude from Layman Terms and a couple other guys, but they just recorded this super rad album, and then like I think they toured on it for like a year with the Gamuts, and then didn't really do anything else with it. And so he's got a new band with some other musicians called Discomfort Creature, and I haven't heard any demos or previews of songs, but like because it's Chris Fogel, I know it's going to be really sweet. He's just got an awesome ear for music, so I know that's going to be great. NoFX is probably coming out with like 2 albums maybe, because I know that they just released single album.
Yeah, that just came out.
And Fat Mike has been saying that it was a double album.
That's what I keep hearing.
So he had like 23 songs or something, then cut it down to 10. So then there's like these 13 songs that don't exist on anything. So that might end up being an album. But then they're also in the studio right now recording, or
they're doing that like
or
live
about
thing, I think, where they're like recording it live online or something.
Yeah, or they're doing like rehearsals live, and then maybe they're gonna record in like a month or something like that.
It was something like that. All I know is
they're up to something.
They released an album like 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we're like up, we're like doing it again.
What's funny is they also, did you hear the Frank Turner split with them?
I did. That's another interesting one.
So that one actually got recorded after single album. They had single album, I'm pretty sure. Single album got recorded, and then they were like, well, let's do a split with Frank Turner and put that out. So they had this recorded, then recorded the Frank Turner split, put that out, and then put out the single album. So like I know that they have been sitting on the songs for a while.
That makes sense too, because I know some of those songs on single album were part of those like 45s they were doing, like the Fat like record of the month or whatever. They revived that, and I know some of those songs were part of it, and that's like a year or so old. So that makes sense now that you say that, like the timeline of the Frank Turner thing.
Yep.
You've checked out the new NoFX, have you? The new record?
Yeah. It's gonna take me probably a couple more listens to be able to like actually kind of sit down and appreciate all of the songs in their entirety, because they released like a couple of the songs early as like music videos and stuff. So I had heard those, and then like when the album came out, of course I was like, I go to listen to it and I'm like, well, I've already heard this one song, so I gotta like listen to all the new ones. And then like kind of it'll probably be another like 4 or 5 listens through before it kind of really sticks into my brain.
I got to listen to it, I think, more. I initially, the first listen, I'm not huge on it. I normally love NoFX. Like last record, Last Ditch Effort, self-entitled, both of those I thought were some of the best in a while. This one I do. I think I should probably listen to more. I'm not as... it's different, though. It also doesn't sound like a traditional NoFX in a lot of ways.
I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
For these songs, he kind of, and he's said this, a few times before about, not wanting to do something that's been done before. So I think that there's a lot of things on there that are different, because I mean, there's no other band that's done that. So like he's like, all right, well, let's have a song that none of the measures are the same. And so like the first song is just like all of these weird.
It's like 7 minutes long too, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a long.
Yeah.
It ain't linoleum. It ain't like 2-3 minutes. It's long.
And it kind of drags on, and it builds and everything. And so I was just listening to him the other day talk about how he was like, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to play that song live because like none of the notes are the same measure. So, you know, it's like, you're just kind of making it up as you go along. So it's kind of weird to follow a song that there's not traditional like 4/4 rules, you know.
Not a straightforward like punk song, like,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah. But you know, a lot of the songs I think there's like kind of funky chord progressions and like weird timings and stuff, and I think that they're kind of in this stage of their career where they're trying to really break outside of the box. And I'm looking.
Kind of what I got from it.
I'm looking forward to hearing like what they have in the future, because I think that this is kind of a cool and interesting way to go. And you know, as time goes on, you kind of like hone your skills. So like as they're branching out and doing all these, you know, kind of different non-traditional things, I think it's going to be result in a really kind of cool situation, a really cool sound, you know, 5 or 10 years from now.
Yeah. Well, and with them too, I don't feel like they're a band you have to worry too much about going down too many avenues where they're gonna change their sound entirely. Like, even though this one's different, they're not a band where I go, oh, well, the next one's going to be even more experimental. Like, I feel like they're a band who may do it a little on a record or on a couple songs, but I feel like at the end of the day, No Effects will always be No Effects. Like, if you don't like this record, I'm sure they're going to make one you're going to like in a couple years.
Right. Well, that also kind of gets me into this this idea of like, you know, how like people say they like Blink-182, but nothing after Dude Ranch, even though like that album came out like
20-something years ago.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe you just don't like Blink-182.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there. It's like at some point, you bring up a good point, because there are bands, but I think I talked about this sometime recently on the podcast, and it's like, it also is a testament though to how good maybe one or two albums are. But if you're a fan of one, like I question that I'm a fan of Weezer, because I used to, like, when I first got into them, I mean, I was young, so I really started paying attention around, like, Make Believe. Like, I wasn't listening to them when Blue Album came out.
Yeah.
But as I get older, all I listen to is Blue Album and Pinkerton. So at some point, I have to go, not screw Weezer, I have to go, me personally, am I a fan of a band if I go, I don't like anything they've done since 1995? Like, it's not them, it's probably me. You know what I mean? Like, I acknowledge that. It's like... Yeah. Maybe I just don't like that band. Maybe I like one album. Yeah. And that's fine, too. There's a lot of bands where, more realistically, you're not a fan. You just like that one record.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
That's a good point with, like, Dude Ranch, because it is. It's like, after a bit, it's like, dude, they haven't had the same drummer in, like, 20-something years. I think you just don't like Blink.
They've been a band longer now than, or it's been more time now than, you know, then that album has come out. Then like they existed before, you know. I mean, they changed their.
I was talking to Blink with some guests recently, and I mean, I think at this point we figured out too, like even in terms of that, it's like Blink without Tom has been around as long, or if not longer, than the reunion. Once they reunited with Tom, like he's been out longer than he came back at this point. You know, like you start looking in terms of time. Yeah, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Exactly.
How about you know, going back to like last year? What were you at the end of the year? What were like some of your favorite albums of 2020?
Let's see. That's tough because
it was a great year for music too. Which for obvious reasons, everyone had time. But I feel like at the end we actually got a lot of good music.
Yeah. You know, I've got this list of albums and things that I thought were like the most recent albums that had come out this year, but you know, there was a few that were like 2019 that I was like, what? How's an entire year passed since that's come out? So I know the new Much the Same.
Oh, I haven't heard that yet. And I love that's a good just pop punk band.
They're kind of, they reunited and put out an album. That one came out in 2019 actually.
Oh my god.
One is
Don't feel bad. I didn't know it came out 2 years ago.
Yeah. That one is really great. this pop punk band called the Fizz Gigs released an album in 2020. That one's very interesting, and I like their name because it's I want to say it's the name of the little creature from The Dark Crystal. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I know
It's
it
a
is.
Jim
Though. It's
Henson.
like live action, but with puppets, right?
Yeah. There's like a little like creature, and I want to say his name is Fizzgig. But so they've got a really cool album. It's called We Are the Fizzgigs. So check that out. 2019. Menzingers came out with Hello Exile.
Good record.
And I really wasn't into the Menzingers until that album came out. I think it was just one of those bands that I had maybe heard a couple songs and I was like, well, it's not my thing. And then that album came out, and I think probably because I'm older and I'm able to appreciate like kind of like slower just music, in general, that they're just good songs. So
what they do really well that you have to give credit to, like if you go see them live, there's this huge mixture in like demographic, because there's 20 somethings. There's also dudes who are like in their 50s. Like they have this huge spectrum of like dudes who were like saw the Replacements and Black Flag in the 80s and like were into that stuff back in the day, who are like, oh shit, it's like, it is like that. Because they love all that stuff. All those dudes are influenced by it. So you get that older crowd who get what they're doing, and then you also get the younger people who are into it. They have this, like really anytime I've seen them, and it's awesome because they always get bigger too. Every time you go see them, the venues get bigger. And it's always this huge demographic, which I go, that's the best thing you could ask for. You know?
Exactly. And they've been around for a long time too.
Oh, they've been around since like 06.
Yeah.
They're one of those bands you don't think about, because even I I love On the Impossible Past. I think that's their best record. But honestly, I did the same thing as you. I had heard a few songs for years. It was like, they're okay. Like, I don't hate it, but I'm like, this is okay.
Yeah.
And then maybe like 2015, when Rented World came out, I heard a couple songs. I'm like, all right, I got to pay more attention to this. Then I saw them live, and then it changed. I'm like, oh shit, like this band. I started hearing more of the deeper cuts. I'm like, oh, like I get what they're doing.
Yeah. And they're just really good songwriters. And I think that
that's another good example. Have you ever heard the On the Impossible Past demos that they released? It's like you basically just have to go find the MP3s now. They released it as like a cassette years ago.
Yeah.
But it's like 6 songs off that record, but just acoustic, and it sounds like it's on a 4-track or something. It sounds like it's recorded in a bedroom, lo-fi, but it's, again, you kind of strip back these songs, and it's like, some of the songs on there I think are better than they are on the record. I go, it's haunting. Like Sun Hotel is one of them, and they change it up a little. It's not just like the one on the Impossible Past, but it's like you listen and you go, my God, the song is haunting. Like it's not just a punk song. It's like I feel something totally different than what I do from the electric one.
Yeah. Chris Rowe from the Ataris is really big on like releasing demos and stuff like that, and having like these stripped down versions of the songs. I remember like hearing just tons of their songs, like hearing these versions that were like recorded like on a 4-track tape in the back of a van.
I bought a Fostex. I have the same exact 4-track that he recorded all his old demos on, because I love the sound of that. I found one. I asked him on Twitter. I'm like, what is the specific one you do those on? Like, what are all those ones you did in like hotel rooms and stuff? He's like, Fostex, whatever. And I bought one. I've used it. I've made nothing as good as him. But it does have that sound of like 90s made on a cassette in like a bedroom.
There's a button that just says nostalgia, and you gotta like
you just
push.
Gotta turn it all the way till it breaks off.
A little more nostalgia in the monitor.
Nostalgia. I guess that's true, because at the time he's doing it, it's like, it's just because that's what you do. Now you're doing it, it's like, well, now I want it to sound like something. You are right. It is very nostalgia.
Yeah, chasing the past there.
It's funny though. I was just thinking too, as you mentioned that, like with demos. I remember, I think for the 10th anniversary of So Long Astoria on Bandcamp. I don't know if it's still up there. I think it got pulled. He had like 50 demos. It was just a collection of like 50, like anything you could think of. There were there were just instrumentals. There were demos, but without like bass. There was one just without like so specific. Like, but I love that because you can tell he's such a music fan that he probably loves it. He's the kind of dude who probably buys box sets when it comes out, and it's like here 50 different versions of a demo of this song, and it's like no one else gives a shit, but this dude does. And I think he knows that. So I appreciate that he releases all that.
He's definitely good on that fan service of like any little random morsel that, you know, if you're a fan of a band, you know, that kind of stuff, it's cool to hear, you know. So I think at the end of so NoFX's Wolves in Wolves Clothing, I want to say there's some demos of like random stuff, like of like a, you know, voice memo kind of thing where you can hear him like kind of like working on the song, like kind of like writing the part as he's going. And
after, are you talking like at the end of the song where you like
let
it
like
play
track
for like 5-10 minutes or whatever?
And that kind of stuff is really cool.
iTunes ruined that. Now you can see. Now when you see it, the last track is like 40 minutes. You go, oh, there's a hit. Okay, it's a hidden track. I remember back in the day leaving it on, and all of a sudden I had CDs where I never realized it. And you're like, what the hell? All of a sudden something starts playing.
Yeah. I did that on a couple of my EPs. I would like do either like a hidden track or like have like 20 minutes of silence and then like a drunken voicemail from like one of my friends or whatever, and like just throw that on there just as a little bonus. But you know, people, it works better and like on tape. It doesn't really work or even like CD, but like it doesn't really work for like the way that we consume music now.
Not digitally.
Hidden track, like people really are just hidden. Like, duh, I'm like trying to work out and I got my playlist on. This stupid song has 20 minutes of silence at the end. Jesus.
I hate that because I'll like, if I get playlists for the radio show going, I'll put songs on and I'm kind of looking at the top at like what the time is because like, you don't want to play too much music. So I'll get it together and I'll go, what the hell? It says like this playlist of like 15 songs is like, I don't know, like really much longer than 15. Yep. And then you look and there's like, you put like the last song on an album on and there's like hidden 10 track. Minutes of silence. Yeah, like that goddamn hidden track's on there. Yep. I'm going to have to cut it.
Yep.
NoFX, I know, did that on So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes. There's like at the end, I think it's, if you listen long enough, it's like Howard Stern bashing them. He's like listening to them on air like, this ain't rocking.
Yeah. That always like bummed me out the most because the best, in my opinion, the best song on the album is the last song, Falling in Love. And in fact, I used to cover it like acoustic. Me and my buddy Rich, we used to play out and we would cover that acoustic, and it's always my favorite. And that whenever I put it on a playlist, I'm like, I gotta skip the end because of course I know like it's just gonna be silence and then stupid Howard Stern talking at the end of it, bashing them. But
I think it was Man Overboard who did it on their CD. Like in the middle of it, it sounds like a record, just like when you just let a record play and there's just no music. And in theory, that sounds cool until you're listening to it. And there's just like 3 minutes of like just a record just hitting the last groove or whatever. Yeah. And there's just nothing. It's just static and popping.
That's in the middle of the CD?
Yes, because it's supposed to be side like A to side B.
So the Copyrights did that. They did it. Man, I forget what album it was, but they have like it's not that. And there's not like silence, but it's like the end of one song in the middle of the album. There's like a tape, like you can hear a tape cassette like being popped out and then flipped over and then crunched back into the player, and then the next song starts. So it's kind of like, I guess it's similar, but it's not as annoying because there's no silence.
I can't think of what Copyrights record that is on, but they're a great
Is
band.
It Make Sound? Maybe it's Make Sound.
Maybe it's that one. When you sent that playlist earlier, I know they were on it. That's I love that band.
That's
I forget about them.
A song from the song Crutches from North Sentinel Island.
I think that's their best album.
Yeah, that one's really, really good.
I randomly found it for $1 in Erie one day. It was sealed. It was brand new for $1, and I think I had heard their name before, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Or I think I even just saw Red Scare, I think, put it out. So I'm like, Red
Yep.
Scare always puts out, like, anything Toby puts out, I'm like, it's probably good.
Exactly.
So
Masked
it's-
Intruder.
Oh my God, like everything. Like I to this day, if he puts it out, I have to go listen to him because I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
right away. Have you listened to Heart and Lung? That's like I think one of the. They're from Cleveland and they've been
Really?
a band for a while, but he just re-released their album from like 2017.
Yeah.
It sounds just like if you like copyrights, dopamines, Dear Landlord, mixtape, that Midwest pop punk.
Yep.
They hit the nail on the head.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll
I'm
have to check
excited.
them out.
They got a new record coming out this year. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm kicking myself that I'm just hearing this band
Yeah.
last year because it's like they were right up the road. Like they
Yep.
were. How many times did I miss them playing Mahal's or the
Right.
Grog Shop or something?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I saw the Copyrights play in Erie one year. It was, I think, right after Learn the Hard Way came out, so it was a while ago. And I drove there and thought I was going to be super late. And of course, when you think you're going to be late, you're like the first person at the club. So I got there. They were playing at the Crooked Eye, and there was like a couple other bands playing, but it was like me and like 5 other people
That's
at
it?
this show. And I was like, how is nobody here at the Copyrights show in Erie, Pennsylvania? And they were like, well, this is our first time playing here, so like nobody here knows who we are. So I was like, I felt bad for them, but I felt awesome for me because I was like just standing there in front of the stage, just drinking and screaming their lyrics right back at them. That was a super fun show.
I feel it. I will to make you feel better. I saw them in 2016 in Cleveland, and they had a pretty good audience actually.
Yeah.
Like more people, because I wasn't sure. Like I didn't know how to gauge how big they were. I don't know anyone else besides you who listens to Copyright. So I'm like, I don't know how big this will be, but they filled up the basement at Mahal's, which was just just absolutely awesome. Oh my God, I just had a thought too. What did I want to bring up? You were just talking about, and you just gave me, the Crooked Eye.
Yeah.
How is that the only show you've ever been there? Like, how is that as a venue? Because I'm still salty.
I don't think they're open anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they closed.
I'm salty. I wanted to go see Mustard Plug there.
Yeah.
A week before I turned 21, and it was a 21 and up show, and I could not get in. And then I had to wait like 5 years to see Mustard Plug. So I was salty, but I've always wondered what the Crooked Eye was like.
Crooked Eye, it's
just a shitty dive bar.
It's a venue. It's a venue.
Oh, okay. It was a venue.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a dive bar, but it's
I mean
a small
shitty in
venue.
the best way. I mean a dive bar for a concert should be shitty. I don't want a clean dive bar.
It's fine. I mean it's not like the Mohawk place in Buffalo, where there's like stickers and flyers all over.
That's a standard for me. Like Mohawk and Grog Shop are kind of like gold standards. So like that's what I want it to look like.
You don't want to drop your phone on the bathroom floor, Like,
yeah, that kind of place.
Yeah.
I want
kind of
that.
open doors with your elbows.
Zero soap in the soap, and maybe they'll change that. But pre-COVID, never had hand soap.
Yeah,
Sink probably didn't work half the time.
Exactly. I mean, dirty venues didn't even stand a chance as soon as COVID hit. But
I wonder if they'll come back.
Yeah,
because I miss a dirty venue. I don't miss arenas and stuff. I miss getting like beer spilled on me and people's dirty sweat and odor all over you from like moshing and jumping around and like that's what I miss. I don't miss the big shows I get. Well, I do. I just miss shows.
Yeah. Well, I think people are probably going to, once things kind of like settle down and the dust clears, I think people are just going to be like, you know what? It's time. Life's too short. Let's do a dirty punk show, dirty bar,
dirty, nasty, greasy punk show.
Please, wash your hands and don't come if you're sick. Don't. I think that's what the past year has taught us. Like, basically, don't just use common sense, and we'll all be better off. But I think people will kind of get to the point where they're just like, yeah, we definitely need to have this happen. Let's figure out how to make it work.
People talk about like a new normal or whatever, like once it's all done and stuff. And I think there's a window for that, but at some point, I think we'll all just regress to, it just is a natural thing where it's not month one that everyone starts going to those nasty, you know what I mean? But at some point, 3 years down the road, we're not still all going to be, we can't do that, you know?
Yeah. I think, there's probably going to be certain things like, as far as like how close or on top of everyone else, like you want to stand as far as like just giving them some space, it's kind of like that grocery store thing.
You just bring up a point I never thought of, which now is in a way, I guess, a bummer. But I'm now thinking we may have barricades at small, like a Mohawk place or something, somewhere where you would never have barricades. Right. I'm wondering if we're now going to have like a 6-foot barricade in between.
Well, probably the venues that are I guess big enough to have a show, but not so small that like they're kind of off the grid. There's always going to be like those DIY venues that are just like nobody.
You don't have to wash your hands here.
Yeah, nobody's worried about what we're doing here. But once you get bigger and anybody knows like this place is here and there's going to be a concert here. You've got the address on the flyer. Yeah, you're not.
Like house. Maybe you're the House of Blues.
Just in case, let's maybe have some protocols happening here. But I think we'll kind of come to a good middle point. Eventually, where everything's just kind of we're allowed to enjoy the things that we used to be able to. It just kind of like looks a tiny bit different, and it's a little bit safer and cleaner.
There was a big article, I've not read it yet today, but I know it came out. I saw a bunch of bands like retweeting and stuff about like the future of live shows. Mm-hmm. And what I was getting, without reading it, I could be totally wrong, but what I was getting from what people were saying is that, again, kind of like this, it's going to be a slow transition. It's not going to be just all of a sudden one day all shows are open. It's like it may slowly transform it, but the idea that even in, say, a year it will just be this one way, like just cut and dry, zero chance.
Well, maybe they'll do like the HBO and Disney Plus kind of situation where they're like releasing movies in theaters, but also on demand at the same time.
That. You have to. I think when it comes back, you have to do that.
So maybe there's going to be like you pay to go see No Effects and they're putting on a show, but like the people who don't want to risk it or can't make it or whatever, they got to work early, they can also pay $10 and watch and stream it online.
I don't think live streams will go away. I think that's something that will be integrated. I think that may stay like for good. I could see that being a thing.
So kind of like bring shows into the future, and people are allowed to like stay home in their pajamas but still enjoy it, and eat popcorn and drink wine and sit on their couch.
Which that's the thing. I feel like there's so many people who would want, like, I think after all this is done, there's an untapped market of people who's like, I don't want to get a babysitter. I don't want to have to get dressed. I don't have to do this and that. I want to sit on my couch and watch you. Like, I'll watch you from my local venue. Like, I'll pay $10. It'll be cheaper than a ticket. I'll watch you from the place I love, but I have work in the morning, and, I don't want to spend all this money.
And then, figure out how to get home and all that stuff. Like, especially like with concerts, we live in a weird area where we're accessible to all of these bigger cities that bands used to be able to tour to. That's within like driving distance, but it's also like well, now I'm all tired after the show and I got to drive 2.5 hours from Cleveland back home. So it's like that's even from Buffalo, like it's kind of a hike. It's not that bad, but like when it's 1 a.m. and you're just like completely exhausted. Like I'm starving. I skipped dinner to go to the show. I really don't want to have to go to McDonald's right now.
I was actually about to bring that up. You bring up a good point. Is also just location, because we're in a place where it also becomes that too, where if you want to go to a show, it becomes more than just like what I loved about when I lived in Minneapolis, and I never had that my entire life, but I could get out of work at 4:00, go home, have dinner, mess around, and just go to a show at night. I just like, I'm going to go to the show. I'm just going to drive 5 minutes, go to the show. With us, if you want to go to a show, you got to plan it out.
It's a whole thing.
You got to make sure you can get there. A lot of times that means leaving work or school or something early. It means ditching something.
Yep.
If you're hungry while you're up there, parking. Like, it becomes a thing where, too, the concert ticket's like the cheapest thing at the end, even if you're not spending a lot of money, like just gas, like just, everything. Like you said, too, it does at like 1 a.m. It can be. Yeah. That's why I love Erie, and I wish Erie had more venues, because that's the perfect one.
Yep.
40 minutes in and out, I'm good. Show can end at 11. I can be in bed by like 12:10.
Yep.
I can be home, sleep, that's a beauty. So I think live streams for that too, just people like us who, you're in Jamestown, bands aren't coming here. I can't go to Cleveland tonight, but I'll pay $10.
I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah, but I do miss it, because I brought it up to you earlier when you sent me that playlist, but it's like you had like mixtapes and copyrights and just different bands where I'm like, it makes me miss, including even more like in my college days, just doing that of like weekends or not weekends, just skipping class, driving up there, hitting a show. I mean, Cleveland has really, I start thinking about it, has probably my favorite venues. Like all my favorites are there. So whatever show it is, going and seeing shows, driving back at night, stopping at like the Waffle House. Like I have ritual, blasting Saves the Day on the way home. That's always, I got to listen to Through Being Cool. That is, every time I leave Cleveland at night, like midnight, I blast that shit down the interstate. Yep. Like I just have rituals, and it's like, I miss that, because it's even more than just the show. It's like all the other stuff that goes with it.
It's the whole, process of it. And my road trip album is Frenzel-Rom. Actually, the two latest Frenzel-Rom albums are perfect for road trips, because those are such high energy songs. They're freaking incredible. They've got just fast screamy songs. They've got the fast melodic songs. They've got kind of mid-tempo songs. Though definitely, if you haven't checked out the two most recent.
Is the most recent the one where it's like people, I think they're wearing like construction hats.
Yeah.
That's a great record.
I think it's High V, High T. High T,
yes. Yeah, it is. It has a weird ass name. It's like High V, High T.
And that one.
It's a great record.
It's pretty incredible.
I don't think I heard the one before it.
Smoko at the Pet Food Factory or something like that.
I did then. Yes, I remember that. I remember that title. That's both of those albums have like some incredible songs on them. But I mean, Fat Records, you can't go wrong with some great Fat Records. They're up there with Red Scare, where it's like if Fat's gonna put it out, I have to listen to it. Like I have to give it a listen. And a lot of times I'll buy the record without ever hearing it, because it's just like they're not gonna throw you something totally weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a quality there where it's like, all right, if Fat Mike's releasing it, I'm probably gonna like it.
They're kind of exclusive. I think there was a time in the early 2000s where it got a little bit funky. Yeah. But for the most part, they've been really consistent.
I think like that's, and I'm not talking shit on Epitaph either, because I mean obviously it's worked out great for them. But like they're one where like if an album came out on Epitaph from say like 90 something, basically the 90s. If I find a record that says Epitaph on it from the 90s and I've never even heard the band, I'll buy it, because they had the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Not so much now, but again, it's not even, I'm not even shitting on them. They just do such different things that you're not guaranteed. Yeah. It's the same. I mean, they have Falling in Reverse and they also have Bad Religion. And I don't even know if Falling in Reverse is a band still, but basically that. Right. They have those neon heavy Hot Topic core bands. They also have like punk bands from the 90s, so you just don't know. It's not the same kind of thing where you can just pick it up and it be this amazing like punk record.
I want to say the new Lawrence Arms album was on Epitaph.
That was on Epitaph.
Too. Yeah.
Or wait, was it Fat? No, they released that Best Of, didn't they? And then they went back on Epitaph. You're right.
I think so.
Larry Arms, I feel like if they're not on Fat, they're on Epitaph, or they're on Asian Man. Those are like the three that release all Larry Arms stuff. If it ain't one, it's the other.
Yeah.
I think a really good pop punk one from last year, Attic Salt. I don't know if you ever.
Yeah. I definitely remember checking that out, but I'm trying to remember what
it's like. A solid, just like I think the whole album's like 20. It's one of those where it's like it's a 24-minute album.
Yeah,
like you can listen to it and like really like even if you're not a fan of a song, it's over before. You know what I mean? Like, but the whole thing's good, and it's just I feel like it's kind of like we were talking about. I don't feel like they went in the studio and overthought it. It sounds like everyone just played their one part. There wasn't a lot of like, we have to go add layers of vocals or guitars and stuff. It's like just really simple. I could see them playing that shit like in a basement somewhere.
Yeah.
And it just sounding like it does on record.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of like pop punk bands that work so well. I mean, it's such a simple and straightforward format that, you know, what you have on the record is exactly what you're going to get in the live show, and it's not overthought, and it's just, you know, it's the perfect kind of type of energy for the live format or, you know, listening to, you know.
Mixtapes, like on your playlist, mixtapes on there. I think that's one of the reasons why they're one of my favorite bands. It's the simplest shit. Like you can sit there and learn a mixtape song as you're listening to it. You can strum on your guitar and you have the whole. And they said that forever, which was also funny because I remember when they were putting stuff out, some critics would say that like this is the easiest stuff, this and that. And it's like, well, you're missing the point. Who gives a shit that you can play it?
Right.
And in a way, I like that I can play it. It's more accessible. You know, a lot of and you hear that a lot with punk rock, where it's like, I didn't want to play guitar because I can't play like Jimmy Page. But when you find, say, Dude Ranch or Enema of the State, you can play like Tom DeLonge over the weekend. You know what I mean? You can buy a guitar and sound like Tom DeLonge in 3 hours. So it's like, you know, I think that accessibility, I mean, I like it as a listener, and I just also like that, where I'm like, it's not pretentious. They went in, they wrote these really heartfelt songs. These chords worked with it. They didn't throw like synthesizers in or some weird ass thing. You know?
Now, on the reverse side of that, because I was thinking about this today, you know, there's like the pop punk that's super simple and, you know, has melodies that I think everybody can enjoy, and it's just kind of like overall this you know, enjoyable experience is almost like kind of like dessert. Like everybody's just kind of like, oh yeah, of course, this is great. Yeah, it's just kind of giving me that right amount of sugary sweetness. And you know, on the reverse side of that, you have like bands who are really like technical that, you know, you almost kind of need to like challenge your brain, like bands like Propagandhi.
That was the first one I just had in my head when you said that.
Adrenalized or Forest.
Wilhelm Scream.
A Wilhelm Scream,
like
yeah. And even like RX Bandits. Like,
oh my God, those guys, Jesus, like they're not even, it still blows my mind. Like they'd be the best band, like as far as being able to play your instrument. I don't know another band on Drive-Thru ever could play. And I love Drive-Thru, but I mean, just realistically, those are like the greatest guys at all their respected instruments.
I didn't even know that there was anything but 4/4 time until I listened to the RX Bandits, and I was like, oh, there's other time signatures. Wow, this is crazy.
And it's good too. They can go like weird ass places and you like it. You go, no, go ahead and experiment. Like it's fine.
They have kind of like perfected that jammy kind of flowiness of like a song that works so well.
Yeah.
And you know, they're one of my favorite, like I you know, you call them a ska band, but that's not giving them enough credit. They're like virtuosos.
Well, here's another question. That's almost like the Blink thing again, where it goes, there was a time where they were ska. Do they even consider that? It's one of those things where it's like, are we still a ska band, or were we a ska band 15 years ago or whatever? You know what I mean?
It's just like, you know, placeholder title, because it's just like they're just a band with like, they're like musicians, you know, like they're a band that's really fun to listen to from the musician's point of view.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, being able to play their instruments so well just makes you appreciate their music so much more, because it's like, wow, that is very tricky to play. That's a crazy time signature, and you're somehow also working in a super catchy vocal melody on top of it. Their latest album, Gemini Her Majesty, is like, that's one of my favorite all-time albums. That's got to be one of the you know, most listened to since that came out. That's got to be on my at least top 5 of most listened to albums since it came out.
They're another one that we're long awaiting another one, because that one's been out for a while.
I feel like they're in the studio.
That'd be nice.
I mean, I always see Matt, their singer. He's kind of like posts like videos of him like riffing around and stuff on Instagram. And so I'm hoping that at some point they kind of, he's like, oh, this should be our expanded stuff. So hopefully at some point they're definitely on my wish list for a new album coming out.
It's funny you bring up the musician thing too, because they're one, like going back to like Drive Thru. I think if you asked other bands who toured with them or played in that era, they'll say that like RX Bandit's one of their favorite bands, one of the best I ever saw live. But it doesn't seem like other people picked up on, like regular Drive Thru fans and stuff, where it's like they'd play with those bands, but it seems like the bands themselves they were playing with were the ones who got it, not the audience as much, sadly.
Right, like just criminally underrated.
Extremely. Which, and to be fair, too, I feel like they've carved out a great like little niche for themselves, because even like that last record, I think they crowdfunded it, and I think it went nuts. Like, people right away, it got funded. It's like, people want a new RX band. That's not a hard one to try to pull people's arms. Like, yes, here's the money. Go make us another one.
Please.
That they are, that's another great band that I think, we should get something, hopefully sometime soon.
So, No Use for a Name has always been one of my favorite bands. I wear their influences on my sleeve. If you listen to any of my music, you're going to hear definitely huge, No Use for a Name and No Effects and Lagwagon, but definitely No Use for a Name influences.
No Use has that too, where with Tony Sly stuff, where you strip it back and you go, oh my God. Like, he may be like the best lyricist on Fat. Like, if you look back at those, he may have been the best of all the Fat bands lyrically.
Yep. And, I think that all of their songs just, they work so well and they're so well crafted. So Matt Riddle is like one of my favorite bass players.
Great bass player.
He's actually in this new band called Fire Sale.
I think I've seen that.
With the dude, it's the
they're like a super group, aren't they?
Yeah, it's the guy from the one time on tour podcast.
Oh yeah, Chris.
Yeah. It's him and Matt Riddle and like a couple other dudes.
I think like someone from like Protest the Hero.
Yeah. And so they're working on a new album right now.
Oh, that'd be rad.
I think that's supposed to come out in April. So
I've seen them teasing. I haven't heard anything, but I have seen Matt and Chris tease stuff online.
Yep. This band called The Softer Side.
Oh, they're good.
They're
you turned
really
me on
great.
to them, I think.
Yeah, they had their last EP was called what was it called? The Softer Side. Rise from the Embers. That EP is incredible from front to back. And then they're working on a new album right now too.
Oh, sweet.
And they're super cool dudes. This band From the Tracks they're from a bunch of places in Europe, but they're like this like super fast melodic punk band. They're recording a new album. And the dude from have you checked out Symphony of Distraction? I put one of their songs on the playlist that I sent you.
I don't
but
think
they're
I've heard
super
them.
super fast like pop punk band. The singer of that band has it's not an acoustic, it's just like a solo project called Lonely Bunker, and he like made it this mission to like record like 40 songs in 2021. And so he's just every couple of weeks he's just like putting out a new like solo song, whether it be like a cover song or an original or a Symphony of Distraction song or whatever, just kind of
something.
like just recording something and putting out a song every couple of weeks, which is super cool. And he's in the singer of the band Symphony of Distraction, and their old band was called Second Shot, and they've got like 3 albums out. I would recommend checking out any of the albums from either of those bands. That's like right up my alley. Just super accessible melodies over really fast punk rock, drums, and you can't beat that,
Oh, I love that. Again, it's like that simple fun. It's like, it reminds you why you got into the genre in the first place. It reminds you like the early stuff. You're like, oh yeah, just it's fun.
Yeah.
It's easy to get into. You know, I love that stuff. I'm looking forward to, I don't know if you're a Homegrown fan, but Adam from Homegrown's doing more stuff now, just kind
Really?
of kind of in that vein
Really?
of just the old school pop punk stuff. And
Cool.
I'm excited to see another dude from that era. His voice, I got to say, his voice has not changed. He sounds,
Really?
because he's been doing Homegrown covers too on his Instagram. He's a good follow on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think
Voice
I
sounds
saw
the
that.
same. Dude
Yeah.
sounds like it's 2003 still. Like he's hitting those songs from Kings of Pop,
Nice.
and you're like, my God. Plus, I'm excited. Is there a band who, like, at the end of their whole thing, they like had demos released and stuff, and they were amazing. It was so. They're one of those bands where you're very sad that you never got to see what was going to happen next, because they were on the verge of something cool. Where it was, and at the time, now you listen to it, and it sounds kind of like the stuff that was coming out in 2006.
Yep.
But when they were doing it, like, predated that, and it's like, oh my God, like, this is really something different. Kind of what post-hardcore and, like, pop punk bands who went kind of heavier, like the second half of that decade, you know, all kind of did what they did. But when you look at when they put that out, it's like, holy shit, they were onto something.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And, you know, unfortunately, like, that's when, as bands get older, not only do they like develop their sound, like learn their instruments better and kind of hit their stride creatively, but then also, you know, you get older and life kind of hits you and other things happen. I mean, it's the same reason why like Dillinger 4 only puts out an album every like 12 years because their priorities kind of shift from being in a band and pouring all of their energy into that to like, okay, well, you know, maybe I need to like get a job or maybe they got married and had kids and, you know, things kind of end up slowing down. So as a fan, it kind of sucks, but like they're also people.
Yeah, they have lives outside. Like, but you are right. It's like we want a Dillinger 4 record more than Dillinger 4 does. You know what I mean? Like we're sitting here anticipating it. Patty's not sitting at home going, fuck. Why? Where's the next Dillinger? Like that's what the world needs. We need another. Like he doesn't. That's so far down the list. Because you're right. I mean, I think they own a bar. Two of them, I think, run a bar. Grumpy's, I think, in Minneapolis. They do that. I mean, I think all of them have kids. Like they're all 40, maybe even into their 50s or getting there. Like they got lives. Dillinger 4 is not, and it's not their job either anymore. They play shows from time to time, but they're not out touring and shit.
Exactly.
Like it's not a you know, it's just not. People have to realize that. And I've done that more as I've gotten older. But it's easy as a fan to be like, I want this. You know, I want new music, and I want this.
Yeah, especially
they
this day
lives.
and age. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they have lives. They have shit to do. It's like we want it more than they do, and it's like you got to be realistic. It's like they, including bands where it's like you've been gone for so long. It's like that band has moved on from the album you loved from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a harsh reality. You got to remind yourself sometimes.
Yep.
But they're not sitting at home going, man, we got to do another. It's just us.
Except for Pennywise.
Pennywise.
They'll put out the album that you want.
They'll do it. They'll make sure it's like that. 2022.
Yeah, exactly.
You're Pennywise.
Exactly.
But I don't know, man. I mean, I think this has been a good talk as we kind of like settle here. One thing I did want to ask earlier, like as we're talking about that third EP and stuff, and you wanting to approach differently and stuff. Do you have an idea of when you're going to put it out, or is that just kind of like I'll get to it when I? Is it Dillinger 4?
Yeah. It's
is
kind
like
of like
Dillinger 4?
I don't have any deadline or expectations for myself. I just kind of you know, I want to take it in stride, pace myself, kind of get a better vision as far as how I want to record it. You know, whether I want to do it myself. Or if I want to go into a studio or something like that, I'll probably end up doing it myself. But I also kind of got into the weeds of kind of replacing the electronics and the pickups on my bass and my guitar. And so, you know, of course, that kind of turned into one thing and the other thing and kind of delaying the process. You know, I want it to be, I don't want it to be, like I said before, I don't want it to be, you know, a repeat of the Fever Dream EP. I want it to be its own kind of special thing and have its own kind of special and unique sound. So I'm definitely going to take my time with it and make sure that it's the quality that I want to be able to put out for these songs.
That's, I mean, and that's a better thing, because once you put the album out, it's there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like it's better to think it out, put out what you want instead of release it and go, oh, that's like not what I had in mind.
Right.
You
and
know.
I do have a demo of the of one of the songs on it called Abandonment. It's on my Bandcamp page, joeycobra.bandcamp.com. So you can check that out. And then there's also another demo on there called Transcendence that I released in 2018. So if you scroll down, you can find that one too. It's just super rough demo I put together on my iPhone when I found out it had GarageBand on it. So,
nice.
So you can check both of those demos out. Those will be on the new EP, and then there's going to be a punk version of an acoustic track that I put out in 2011 on a split acoustic EP with my buddy Joel Murray.
Oh,
So it's like a full band version of one of those songs, and a cover of a Bracket song.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and a couple other ones. So it's probably gonna be maybe 6, 7, 8 songs.
Nice.
in
So another
total.
EP.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I don't think I have a full album in me.
No, see, you're not far off though. You're only
know.
a couple songs.
Yeah, I mean it takes a lot of energy, a lot of commitment, and I think the way that people consume music now, I guess I just don't have. Maybe if I had like the personal vision of like this album is my complete vision,
Yeah.
and I need to like put it out as an album, but like if I don't really care, I guess there's not really. I might as well just.
If there's not a concept there, it's
Yeah.
something to follow. Yeah, that's true. If you say like, hey, here's a collection of songs, they work together and stuff. Yeah, it
Yeah.
probably is better to be like, here you go.
I don't want to add songs just to say like, oh, it's an album.
Throw like a 30-second intro on there. There's one.
And then,
There you go.
Well, it
There's a
actually
track.
is going to have a 30-second intro
Oh,
song.
nice.
I started like going through all of the like 90s, early 2000s like punk songs that I just love the vibe of, and like made a playlist of those to kind of like inspire the EP, the sound of the EP. And I was like, it would be really cool to do a 30-second, just super fast intro song. And,
Oh, it's a song though.
yeah.
Oh, I was talking more like just sounds.
Oh, just
So this is real. This is a
noises.
legitimate.
Yeah.
I meant intro. I meant like when you just hit like a key on a keyboard for like
Yep.
30 seconds.
Oh yeah,
for
just
some
like
ambiance.
just kind of noise.
Yeah,
Yep.
basically it's like there's one track.
Yep. There we go. So yeah, it's going to have a 30-second song on there.
I like that. I love short songs.
Yeah, yeah. I always kind of wanted to like do one, but that one I haven't. I've got it written, but I haven't written the lyrics to it yet. So at some point I'll end up getting that and throwing it together. But yeah, probably hopefully within the next year I'll have the EP out. I've got a kid, so it's
Yeah, you stay busy. I don't think
It's
anyone
tricky.
will blame you for taking a while.
it's tricky, and also you don't want to like rush it just because you have to. So and it's not like I've got a record label or anything like
So
breathing
if you
down
don't
my
have
neck.
to, don't rush it if you don't have to. It's
Yeah.
like that makes no sense.
So yeah, the songs are there. I'll just be slowly kind of piecing them together over the next year, and hopefully have it out at some point in 2021.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. So, and then also your Bandcamp, like you mentioned that earlier, you can find like all your EPs and stuff there, right? That's the place to go if you want your music.
Yep. You can find Fever Dream, Way Too Many Mistakes, which is the most recent EP, and actually Wake No Burden. You can find those
that's on
all
there,
on Bandcamp. You can find those on Spotify and Apple Music and all the main. And then I've got a couple more like acoustic EPs and demos and stuff like that on my Bandcamp page exclusively. So if you do head there, you're going to find music.
It's the best place to find.
Yeah.
I always say that too because I'm like, that's more of a direct support. I feel like bands and artists get more out of that than say, I mean, Spotify, people use it, but it's like if you can choose one or the other,
that's
go
their
with
own.
Bandcamp.
Yeah, and the bands are in control of that page. Like that's their own kind of personal like hub. So, and all of my music is on there for free. So you can download it all if you want to. Like everything that I've done since 2010 or whatever. So
music on there.
Yeah. So actually, maybe earlier than that because I think the Cobra Brothers album is on there too, that's pretty dog shit to listen to. So check out everything else, but that one is you had to be there.
You had to be. See now though, maybe you'll get people to go listen to it. It's like, well, now
I sure
can't
hope
be that
not.
bad.
Yeah. They'll compare it. Well, it'll make everything else sound a lot better.
There you go. Listen to this, and then go listen to the new stuff.
Yeah.
You'll have a newfound appreciation
Yeah.
for my music.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, yeah, like that. You want to tell people like where they can follow you, your art too. I mean, just now,
Sure.
any of that fun shit.
Sure. Yeah. Instagram. So I'm on Instagram for music. It's at Joey Cobra Music. So Joey_Cobra_music. And then my art is Instagram. It's Joseph_Grice_art. So Joseph Grice Art and Joey Cobra Music. My website is josephgrice.art. And you can find me on Facebook too.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there is that. If you were listening to the podcast, we will play some songs here for a second and close it up. So my little fun plugs, follow us at Power Chord Hour on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're on Spotify. Maybe you're listening to this on Spotify. We put up the playlist there from the radio show every week. You can check that out. Rate and review us on iTunes, any of those good places. Send me a screenshot. I'll send you a Power Chord Hour t-shirt. And check it out. We're doing this in the WRFA studios right now. But I always try to get that out there. WRFA, very, very rad station here in Jamestown, New York. I don't give a shit where you're listening right now. You can listen online, WRFALP.com. I got to throw that in there. So, yeah, I mean, I also got to thank them. They're the whole reason we can, do this right now, you know? So, yeah, very good. If you're listening to that, that is going to be the podcast. We will play a few songs here. I'll get might ask you a few that you want to play, but I will play something off Way Too Many Mistakes. And if you're listening to the radio show, we got time for some more, so stay tuned. But right now on the Power Chord Hour, off Joey Cobra's EP, Way Too Many Mistakes, here is The Road.
It's a long, long road ahead, but now I feel invincible with the dark clouds overhead. We've all spent our time in the trenches, but now is the time that we rise from the ashes again. And if you could sing along, we'd be glad to lend a hand. Our hearts will grow strong when we start this chant. And if you could walk on through the sell jobs, we distribute our wealth, so we can go and fuck it up again. Redistribute our wealth to the hands of those who rule, and then set up rules to make sure this can't happen again. No, I cannot pretend corruption never ends, and words like economy and currency are make-believe, just like the gods you trust. We mark on them, these borders are pretend, and I don't believe it's right. This is destroying lives, set up for the sole purpose of holding up our industry. No, I cannot believe if we locate the source, we burn it down, then we can force our way to voice the masses, and we do not have to live like this anymore. Not anymore. Not
What's up? This is Joey Cobra, and you're listening to the Power Chord Hour.